Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video, I'm going to do the Big Book Summer tag. I watched a video by Sue at Sue Jackson DE, where she did this tag per Sue. What extra big 800 plus page books left the biggest impression on you? Which are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Worth every page. The Big Books tag was created by Shelly at Shelly-ish, who says this tag is because of Steve at St. Donahue. Big books can be intimidating, but some are absolutely worth the time, the effort, and the wrist strain. This tag shares 3 or more books around 800 pages or longer that you believe earned every single page. Whether they were emotionally sweeping, intellectually satisfying, or just wildly entertaining, these are the chunksters that prove their worth. I looked at my Storygraph stats. I started Storygraph in February 2022, and I've read 4 books of 800 plus pages, so I'm going to mention all 4 books. None of them were books I loved. All 4 were books I liked, so I'll talk about why I think people might like them. The first book is The Brothers Karamazov, a novel in 4 parts, an epilogue by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. It's 845 pages long. I rated it 3.5 stars. This book was the first book I ever read of classic Russian literature. Actually, so far, it's still the only book I ever read of classic Russian literature. It took me about 100 pages to kind of settle into this book, but once I did enjoy it. The book stars 3 brothers and their domineering father, and each of the brothers are different. There's some fair amount of talk about religion, good and evil. Despite its length, I didn't find this book one that I had to grind my way through. It wasn't one that I had to force myself to pick up and read. I'm not sure if it's the ideal book for your first classic Russian piece of literature because of its length, but it did work for me. So for me, this might be a book someone might want to read for their first or another book of classic Russian literature. Again, I'm no expert. It's the only one I read, but overall I did enjoy it. Some difficulties because, for one thing, the author used different names and nicknames for the same character. It'd be a little hard to follow in that respect, but overall I did enjoy the book. The second book is My Name is Barbra by Barbra Streisand. The book is 992 pages, and I rated it 4 stars. As the title would suggest, this is an autobiography by Barbra Streisand. I am not really a huge Barbra Streisand fan, but I respect her greatly. What she did in movies, directing movies, especially at a time when it wasn't common for women to do so. What she did in the theater, what she did recording and concert music-wise. Because she's had a long, successful life, this is a long book. She does describe in detail things like furniture in her home, furniture in the sets in the movies, and furniture in the sets in the Broadway show she did. She talks about the clothes she got and wore both in her personal life and in her working life. And she talks in detail about the recording of the songs she did, the selections, things like that. I like those kind of details. It might be too much for some people, but I did like them. This was another book like the Brothers Karamazov that I really didn't have to force my way through. I did enjoy it. Of course, I most recommend this for a Barbra Streisand fan, or at least a person who really enjoys the entertainment things she did, movies, Broadway shows, music. The reservation I would have is that some people might not like all the details that I mentioned. But I found this a really good autobiography. And the fact that I enjoyed it for a person that I'm not really a fan of, just respect, tells that it was a really good book, at least to me. The third book is The Complete Tales of H.P. Lovecraft by H.P. Lovecraft. It is 1,112 pages, and I rated it 4 stars. This is, as the title would suggest, all his tales. It's not everything he wrote. He also wrote some poems. This is all his tales. Some of the tales, many of them I was reading for the 4th time. This is a good book if someone just wants to read all the tales H.P. Lovecraft did and the type of different tales. What I like most about Lovecraft is he has his protagonists, all men. They have a desire. They can't fight. They just delve into forbidden knowledge, and it costs them dearly. But I just find that watching their obsessiveness and seeing the things they learn about other realms and things, cosmic beings, the world building he does that runs through a lot of his stories, things he created like Cthulhu and the Necronomicon, things like that, which I think are really good literary devices that he builds a lot of stories around. So I quite enjoy them. The advantage of a short story collection too is that you can read one at a time and come back and read another a month later. I read this book over several months. As with any short story collection, it varies in my personal taste. I don't want to say it varies in quality, but some I liked more than others. Some lived up to my memory, some quite didn't. But overall, as the book went along, the stories became more and more the kinds I really love from him. Includes my favorite Lovecraft tale, At the Mountains of Madness, a novella. I had always thought that was his only novella, but I was remembering it wrong because there's several others in here too. So I would recommend this particular book to anyone who wants to read about a figure who very influential now, but in his own life he didn't quite succeed so well. He died penniless. But there's negatives too, like the time frame he lived in, some of the things he believed, and it reflected in the stories. But I really like this collection in Lovecraft. Probably not going to read him again because, as I said, many of these stories are read for the 4th time. But as far as I know, I haven't read anything else 4 times, so that tells you what I think of Lovecraft. And the final book, and the only one I actually have a physical copy because I have not returned it to the library yet, is The Stand by Stephen King. It's 1172 pages. I rated it 4 stars. I've talked about it a fair amount recently, but I'll repeat a little bit of what I said here. This book has a great plot, very gripping. It has great world building. He does a great job describing locations in detail. I could really picture them very well, kind of almost maybe like I was there. I talked about the issues I had in this book. A lot of the characters are supposed to root for. It had frequent sexist and racist thoughts and statements and stuff like that. But this was a book that, and those things kind of took me out of the story a little bit. I wasn't quite as engrossed as I would have been if I cared more what happened to the characters. But this was another book that, like the Brothers Karamazov, that I didn't have problems keeping reading. I wanted to know what was going to happen. And as the book went to its conclusion, it was very thrilling. This is a book that even though I rated it 4 stars myself, I would perfectly understand anyone who would rate it 5 stars. This is just a very good apocalyptic sci-fi horror novel. Should have said, I guess. I'm sure it's like fairly common knowledge, but this book basically starts when a bioengineered disease created in a secret U.S. lab through a series of mishaps escapes, and that starts the deaths of most of the U.S. population and the world population, and results in the U.S. government trying to, through disinformation, claiming that the disease isn't as bad as it appears, and a brutal crackdown to try to deflect blame for this disease from the U.S. government. So it talks about that a lot too. Just a very good apocalyptic sci-fi horror novel. One that, despite my misgivings about parts of it, I had no trouble picking up and reading. For me, I read it in a period of time which was pretty quick for a book this big. I said the page count, but you can see how big it is, and it's got a very tiny font too. So those are the 4 books. They maybe quite don't live up to what Sue said about what books for this particular tag should be to a person, but they're all books for various reasons I would recommend if they're kind of in the area you like to read. Or I should say too that The Stand is the first book I read for Big Book Summer 2026. Now I'm going to tag some people. First, I'm going to tag anyone watching this video. If this is something you like to do, whether in a video of your own or in a comment to my video, please do so. But I'm going to tag a bunch of people in the description of the video. I hope you're having a wonderful reading week. I hope you're having a wonderful week in general. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. If there is anything you'd like to comment, please add an emoji, perhaps a book or a book stack emoji, or an emoji of your choice. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos.